All right, so we started to discuss about options. We learned that a call option is the right, but not the obligation, is only the right to buy a certain underlying, which can be, for example, in this example, Apple stocks, at a certain price, which we call strike price, which in this example is $100 per stock, at a certain time in the future, which is in this case 3rd of Friday of July 2016. Well, keep in mind the book was printed before 2016. It went into print 2015 or something like that. So that would be a call option, for example. So you have the right to buy a stock at a predetermined price that we call the strike price. In this case, the call option is the right to buy 100 shares of Apple stocks. Accordingly, a put option would be the right to sell certain number of stocks. So for example, in this example, you could have a put option that gives you the option, so the right but not the obligation, to sell 100 shares of Apple stocks at a strike price of $100. Yeah, so on, for example, the third Friday of July 2016, that was back then in the future. So the two parties of an option is, one of them is the option writer. That's a person who's selling the option, who receives a premium for being forced to be the counterparty of that transaction, essentially. The buyer of the option is the option holder. So the option holder pays a premium to the option seller. For that premium, the option holder has the right, when we are talking about a call option, for example, to write the Apple stocks at the price of $100. Obviously, he would do that only if Apple stock is worth more than $100. Then he would buy it for him at the price of $100, and then he would make an immediate profit by, reselling them, for example, in the market. Now, when it's a put option, it would be the other way around. You would only execute your right to sell the stocks at the price of $100 to the option writer if the price in the market is less than $100. So if the price of the Apple stocks in the market would be $95, for example, then you would execute your right. You would sell it, if you are the holder of a put option, you would sell the 100 shares of Apple stocks at a price of 100, at the price of 100 to the option writer who was selling you that option. So you make $5 per stock. So since it's about 100 shares of Apple stocks, you have the right to sell it at the price of 100. They are on the market worth only $95. You would make essentially $500 by executing your right. And of course, you would do that in that case. So that's a brief refresher before we jump on into the option. So in other words, if you buy a call option when you believe that the price of the underlying rises, right? Because a call option means you have the right to buy at a certain price, at the price of 100, for example. Obviously, it's profitable when the market price in the future, whenever the option expires, is higher than 100, so that you can buy it at a cheaper price. 100 is a cheaper price than whatever is the market price. And so it can be essentially like a speculation. If I believe that the price of Apple stocks, is currently, let's say, $100, I believe the price goes above $100. I can buy those options, and I can make a huge profit, because let's say if an option is $1 for an option to sell one stock, so for 100 Apple stocks I have to pay $100. I have the right to buy 100 Apple stocks at the price of $100. Now let's say the price of Apple stocks goes up to 110 by the expiration of that option. I make 10 times $100, $1,000 profits on only $100 investment, which is gigantic. However, if I would have just invested that $100 straight into the stock, I could have bought only one Apple stock, which would have cost me $100, and then I can sell it for 110. I would make a gross profit of $10, and then I would have to pay eventually, like transaction fees, etc., etc. So I make at most 10% on my money, versus if I invest in the options, I tenfold my money. Now, so it's very highly speculative. If I'm wrong, if the price of Apple is not higher than 100, I lose essentially the entire money that I invested, everything that I paid for the option. If the price of Apple is not above the strike price, my entire investment is lost. So I can take a large loss. Who does this? Why would you take that large loss? Well, it can be on the one hand speculators who believe that the price of the underlying goes up, and they see the chance of making a couple of 1,000% of return, but the risk is on the other hand that you can lose 100% of your investment. You can lose the entire money that you invest. So it's essentially you're betting and you're speculating and things like that. So that's the one group who buys options. The other ones could be dealers. So they have engaged in simultaneous purchase and sale of underlying. So essentially you're not taking any risk in that case. So let's assume you have 100 Apple stocks. You own them. It's 10,000. If Apple stock is today, let's say the $100 each. Hypothetically, then you have 100 Apple stocks, which means your portfolio is worth $10,000. You have $10,000 worth of Apple stocks, and you don't believe that in the short run the price really goes up, but you do believe that it's a good investment in the longer run. So in the short run, you also don't want to sell it, but you want to make some extra money on the stocks that you have. So what you can do is you can sell, for example, call options. If you sell a call option on 100 Apple stocks, it means someone has the right to buy your Apple stocks at the price of $100 from you. Let's say, and the call option expires in 3 months. So in the next 3 months, someone has the right to buy your stocks from you at the price of 100. In other words, you're kind of, you can think of it as if you're renting out your stocks, to someone in a way. It's not like that, but that's how you could kind of imagine. So if in the next 3 months your stock's value goes up, you are not participating in that profit. If it goes up above 100, and especially if it's an American option, if you remember American options, the option holder, the buyer, can execute that right at any time. So it's possible that the option price goes up to $103, and that person executes the right, buys it from you at the price of 100. It's worth in the market $103, and that person would make immediately $3 profit. The option was on 100 stocks, so $300 profit. Maybe that person doesn't execute the right, and the price of the stock drops back to 100 or 99 or 98. So, and then the option expires. So you can just pocket in the premium as the profit. You still have your 100 Apple stocks. Things are good. Or maybe the stock price goes down, keeps going down to 97 or whatever. In which case, let's say if you sold the options for, let's say, $1 per stock, or which means instead of making $3 loss, you made only $2 loss. It does reduce your loss, and so on and so forth. So so if you own that underlying asset, my point is here, a call option that obligates you to sell it at a fixed price is not that risky, because you own the stock, so you're not making any losses in that sense. And market makers, they write the options to get the fees from the buyers, and that's how they make a living, if you want. The other thing that you need to know is that options are extremely versatile. I will discuss that in the class video when we do option strategies. You can essentially speculate with options on anything. You can speculate, for example, that the price of the Apple stock will be around $110, or so so you can be slightly bullish or slightly bearish, so slightly optimistic or pessimistic about an underlying. You can also not know what will happen with Apple stock. Maybe you think it will go either far up or far down. You don't know. Even on that you can speculate, in which case you will gain money if the price of Apple stocks moves a lot in either direction, but you would lose money obviously if it doesn't move. So you can bet almost on anything. As I mentioned, it doesn't have to be a stock that is your underlying. It can be the price of corn, and the price of whatever, gold or tomatoes or whatever. So you can bet on almost everything. And so as I said here, you can, for example, bet that prices will be volatile. That's very interesting. We will talk about that later. This is again summing up calls and put options. You should definitely take a look into that, pause it and read over it to make sure you understand those basics. It's very important that you understand call option and put option and how the profit and loss structure is for the buyer and the seller, because that's like the tools that we will use for the next week when we discuss the option strategy. So that was about option risk. Now let's talk about option pricing. The price of an option, how can we determine it? It's a very complex topic, the price of an option and how the price of an option develops, etc. But we can break it down and simplify it down to essentially two major parts of the price. The one part is the intrinsic value, so the value of the option if it's exercised immediately. If you happen to sell or buy the option immediately, if the option buyer happens to execute the right immediately, how much money would he or she make by exercising the right? That's the thing that's called intrinsic value. And the time value of the option is essentially for your potential benefit, because an option that is expires in 3 months versus an option that expires in 1 year, obviously those are two different things, and they should have two different values if everything else is the same. So the option on the same underlying with the same strike price, both are, for example, call options. One is that one that expires in 3 months should have a different value than the one that expires in 1 year, because the one for 1 year gives you the right to execute to buy the underlying for the next year at a certain strike price, whereas the one in 3 months gives you that right only for the next 3 months. So that's obviously something that also plays a role, the time value of the option. So let's talk about the intrinsic value and the time value again. Let's develop some rules to figure out how it is with intrinsic and time value. I will show you down the road a table with different times of expiration, different strike prices, and so on and so forth, and we'll take a close look into that. Again, let's emphasize, so the buyer has only the option, the right, but not the obligation to buy the underlying if it's a call option, or to sell the underlying if it's a put option. So option can be exercised if it's profitable, or it expires worthless. So we have those two possibilities. So the intrinsic value depends only on what the holder would receive if he would exercise that option, essentially. So when it comes to the intrinsic value, we need to be familiar with the expressions in the money, at the money, and out of the money. So an option is called in the money. When we talk, for example, about a call option, we call it in the money when if you would execute that option, so if you would buy the underlying today at the strike price that is determined, you would make a profit, you would make money. In that case, we call it, the option is in the money. It has some intrinsic value. So for example, if we talk about the Apple stocks again, if the price of Apple stock is $105 and the strike price of the call option is $100. It means by executing that, I make $5 profit per option, so it's in the money. It's in the money by $5 exactly. So it's essentially the market price of the underlying, which is $105 for the market price of the Apple stocks currently, hypothetically, minus the strike price. If the strike price is 100, that option is in the money. If the strike price of that Apple call option is $105, it's not in the money anymore. It's at the money. It would be exactly equal. The strike price would be exactly equal the market price. And if the strike price of the option is $110, it would be out of the money, right? You would not execute that, right? Because you can buy it in the market for $105, but if you execute your right on the option, you would buy it for $110. Why would you buy it for $110 from the option seller if you can buy it in the market for $105? You would not do that. It's out of the money. So it has no intrinsic value. If the option is at the money or out of the money, it has no intrinsic value. If it's in the money, obviously there is some intrinsic value. You can execute it today and pocket in some profit. And then accordingly, same thing for the strike price for the put option, but symmetric, of course. So if you have a put option for Apple stocks at the strike price of $100 and the option is in the money, it means the current market value of the Apple stock has to be above or below $100. I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about it. Again, you have a put option, strike price of $100. If the option is in the money, it means the current value of Apple stocks in the market must be above or below $100. Think a little bit. So you have the right. What does it mean? It's a put option, so you have the right to sell it at the price of 100. If it's in the money, it means it must be profitable for you. When is it profitable for you? Obviously when the market price is below $100. If it's $95, but you can sell it for $100. So you force essentially the option writer to buy from you something at the price of $100 that is worth in the market only $95. Does that make sense? So that is in the money. You could buy those. You don't need to own those Apple stocks right now. You can, if you execute the right. Theoretically, you could just buy the stocks for $95 and sell it to him immediately for a price of $100, and then you would pocket in the profit of $5. In reality, when you hold an option, you don't have to really buy it and sell it to that guy, etc., etc. What happens is when you execute your right, you simply get the price difference, right? So if Apple stock is $95, you have a put option for $100, you just get $5 per stock into your account. If you have the right for the put option on, let's say, 10,000 Apple stocks, then you get 5 times 10,000, $50,000 into your account. You don't need to buy 10,000 Apple stocks and sell it to them. You simply get the price difference. Accordingly, if the price of the underlying is $98 instead of $95, then you would get only $20,000 on your account, which is still not bad, right? So anyway, so that's something to know. And then now the question is, that's the intrinsic value that hopefully became kind of clear. Now the question is, how do we calculate the time value of the option? The way we can do it is we can use the present value formula that we learned. So if you know all the possible payoffs of the underlying or of the option, and also the probability for each one, and then if you do the math, etc., etc., then we could theoretically calculate all that stuff. So now a favorable outcome is a case where you make money with that option. The option has some positive value. It's in the money by the time it expires or until the time it expires. Now if let's say you have a call option on Apple stocks with the strike price of $110. Currently, the Apple stock is only worth $100. So your strike price is 110. Apple stock is only at $100. And your option expires in 3 months. Your option is kind of far out of the money, so the Apple stock has to rise by more than $10 each in the next 3 months, so that you can that option makes you any money when you exercise it. The probability is not very high. Well, maybe it is, maybe it's not. It depends on what we call the volatility of the stock. If it's a stock that is very stable, not going up or down at all, it's a very boring stock if you want, so then the probability is of course very little that in the next 3 months it goes up by 10%. But if it's a stock that has a lot of like ups and downs of a couple of percent per day, is nothing unusual, then in that case of course there's a higher probability that this option within the next 3 months generates becomes in the money and would make you you can make some money with it. So that same option becomes more valuable. So it can be the option of a stock, and just because, for example, the market volatility rises or the volatility of the underlying stock rises, that generally rises the price of options. By the way, both the price of call and put options, it doesn't matter, because volatility means simply that the prices go up and down at a stronger rate. The fluctuations are stronger. So it means both the chances that the option price becomes in the money for a call option, which means it goes above the strike price, becomes higher, as well as the probability that the option goes below the strike price of a put option, which makes it in the money, also increases. So that is also something important to know. So the likelihood of an option that an option will pay off depends on the volatility. So if there's more volatility, there's a higher chance that the option moves in the money. So the time value increases with the volatility of an option. And then obviously the longer the time to expiration, the larger is the likelihood of payoff. So obviously that the option with a longer time to expiration must be worth more. So here is a summary of all those factors that determine the price of an option, and let's take a look into an example. Here, let me go in presentation mode so that you can see that stuff better. I don't think that really helped. Let me just go up with the percentages here. So we have here Apple puts and calls. The stock price of Apple, that's in January 15th, 2016, as you see here. The stock price of Apple, the closing price, is at $97.13. Okay, so $97.13 is the price of the underlying. And here we have, in this upper half of the table, we have call options in the top left. So we have call options with the same date of expiration, and here we have put options with the same date of expirations, right? All of them expire in March 18 of the same year. So your January 15 until March 18, that's about two months, so something like 9 weeks ahead is the expiration of those calls and puts options. All of them expire on the same date with different strike prices. So here we have a call price, strike price of $90. Here we have a put strike price with $90. The call with the strike price of $90 is worth $9.70, whereas the put with the same strike price is only worth $2.92. Well, where does it come from? If you look the strike price of the call, this is a deep in the money call option, right? Strike price is 90. the underlying price is $97.13. So if I would execute that option today, it would give me immediately a profit of $7.13. I hope you can see that 97.13 minus 90 is $7.13. It has an intrinsic value of $7. It's deep in the money, so that option must be worth at least $7.13, which it is. It's worth $9.70. Because it gives you that intrinsic value, plus it gives you the opportunity of rising profits if the price of the underlying goes up. So that ends up being $9.70. Whereas the put option, that put option is deep out of the money, right? Strike price of $90, underlying price is $97.13. So the option, the underlying has to go down in price by at least $7.13 for the put option to be at the money, and by more than $7.13 for the put option to be in the money. So that's why, not surprisingly, the price of the put option is a lot lower than the price of the call option. So we can figure out the time value of the call option if we simply subtract the intrinsic value from the call price, because we know the call price consists of intrinsic value and the time value together. So $9.17 minus $7.70 and minus $7.13 is $2.57. $2.57 is the time value. For the put option is $2.92. And so and so on and so forth. So you can look, as the strike price rises, that call option is less and less in the money. So these ones are actually out of the money. As you see, strike price becomes higher than the current price of the underlying, so there's no more intrinsic value. All the value that you see is essentially the time value. And of course the opposite happens with the put. As the strike price increases further and further, here at 97.50 we are slightly in the money by 37 cents. Here we are more in the money, and here we are deep in the money, as you call it, $7.87 in the money. The put option on Apple, when the price of underlying is 97.13 and the put option strike price is $105. Now what we observe here is that the intrinsic value, the time value, both for calls and put options, look at here. The time value increases and then it decreases. As you see, as the strike price gets closer and closer to the current price of the stock, the time value increases, and then as it goes further away again from the current price of the underlying, the time value decreases. That's the case for the call option, and that is also the case for the put option. See here, as we get closer, here strike price of 97.50 is the one that's closest to the 97.13, which is the closing price. The time value increases and increases. As the strike price moves away from the price of the underlying, the time value decreases again. So that's something also interesting to notice, to know about the time value. It's higher the closer is the price of the strike price of the option to the price of the underlying. And then here we have the strike price of $95, both for calls and puts. So it means the calls are in the money, the puts are out of the money. What we change here is the expiration dates. Different expiration dates to see how things change. And as you see, all of the calls have one and the same intrinsic value as of today, right? Because this closing price is $97.13, strike price is $95, so $2.13 in the money. And of course, the call prices are different. $5.75 versus $6.50 versus, so this one expires in roughly 4 weeks. This one 9 weeks, because here we are looking at January 15, 2016 is the hypothetical today's date. And then this one expires in, what is it, in 5 months or something like that? Yeah, in 6 months. Yeah, in 6 months. So, and obviously it becomes more expensive. Now, something to keep in mind, this one has 6 times the duration of that one, right? This is like 4 weeks this is 6 months or more than 6 times, but the price is only like by 50% higher. It's not 6 times higher. That's something important to notice. And also for the put options, same scenario. All of them are out of the money. None of them has any intrinsic value because, again, the strike price is 95, price of underlying is above it, 97.13, and we are looking at put options. But the one that expires in 1 month has less value than the one in 2 months and the one in 6 months. And the reason is simply within the next 6 months, of course, there's a higher chance that the stock price slides below the strike price of $95, and so on. So, but also keep in mind, if you buy it for $8 and the stock price goes in the next 6 months down, let's say to $90, you are still making a loss because you make $5 per stock, but you paid $8 here per stock. So you're still making a loss. Your break-even point would be if the stock price goes below 95 minus 8, so $87 per stock. So that's also something important to notice.